mandatory study table. Each team will do 2 hours a week on study table before they go out to practice. So we're going to try and reduce some of the time we spend on field, because the attention span, these kids, they're coming from, a vast majority of them coming from the suburbs. They're out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. They're getting home from practice at 6:30. They're tired. When we get them after they come out of school, they're pretty spent, you know. So you got to be decisive in what you're teaching. Be prepared. And
Coach, a lot of the kids who are coming to St. Joe's who are freshmen, there's an acclimation process. For a lot of them, they're getting to know the St. Joe's LaSallian tradition. They're finding about St. Joe's football. You know, there's a Coach DiMatteo from Roosevelt High School in New York here who has a mentorship program where every senior on the football field has to adopt a freshman and assimilate them in the program. Maybe, do you have anything that you would like to implement, or you'd like to try, or would like to work on, to, you know, to keep, to get the freshmen as part of the tradition and program as soon as possible?
That is actually something that we're implementing this year. Every freshman, when they come in for the first day of practice, will be assigned a senior. And if we have more freshmen than seniors, which we normally do, we will then move to the junior class. And it's a big brother. It's a mentor program. Any questions they have on or off the field, even once they start school. You know, Sean, you went through it, and it was, sure it was much easier back in your day, in my day as well as it is for kids now, because everything is so much more diversified. And the boundaries that we draw from for the kids that come to St. Joe's. It is an enormous transition for a kid to come from 8th grade to St. Joe's, no matter where he went to school from. And I found that their involvement in a fall sport when they come in, ideally football, when they walk into school for the first day of practice, their transition is over. They're already there. They know 100 kids already. They know 70 of them by name. They've got a big brother. They've been working with these guys for 2 weeks with their teammates, with their guys that are in the program, and making the St. Joe's more of a program as opposed to 3 teams is one of our focal points, so that there's that camaraderie is there immediately for the younger kids, and then hopefully we retain more of them through the course of their 4 years at school.
It's funny, when a freshman, the first thing I can remember meeting my classmates at St. Joe's was on the freshman football team, and I don't know if that was started before the school started, but the name recognition of a coach knowing a young man's name. And when a coach calls him over and introducing himself and meeting his other teammates, it was the first chance for me to get to know my fellow classmates at St. Joe's, and a tremendous bonding thing. One, we have 2 people we need to give advice to: the young man coming into St. Joe's and the parent who's letting go. And he's passing on some of his responsibilities as a parent over to you as the coach and the influence you're going to have. What advice can we give to, 1, the student, and 2, the parent in that process?
For the student, I say, give your maximum effort all the time. Be a sponge, take it all in, and trust the coaches, because they're certainly not here for the pay that they get. They're here because they love the school, because they love the program. It did a lot for them, and that's why they're here. And to mom and dad, it's probably harder. It's probably easier to get that across to the young men as they come in. I think parents are way more involved in their kids' activities now than in years past. And I think it's the best advice I could give a parent now. Obviously, you always want to be vigilant and work at protecting your child and their safety, but is to trust the staff, trust the teachers, take a step back, and allow your son to start to mature in his own light. Kind of cut the cord a little bit and take a step back, and it's important for his development, because if the parents that don't do that, instead of nurturing the development, they actually hinder it, I think.
You know, Coach, I remember some of the life lessons I got from Tucker Reddington when I was at St. Joe's. A couple of them in particular. We were in an important game against Newman High School. It was a 3-3 game. My brother Michael, who was the right defensive end, who was a scholarship athlete at Syracuse, myself was the left, happened to hit the quarterback, who was holding on the ball a little bit too long from Newman at the right time. I was so excited because it was a crucial play. In my excitement, I raised my hand in the air to celebrate. It was still a 3-3 game. Tucker Runnington took me down and sat me on the bench, set me out a couple series, and informed me that nobody on his team was ever going to have that kind of celebration. I remember that lesson through 4 years. And, you know, calling signals at the college level, having a lot of responsibility. My job was to get the job done. Celebrations can be done after an event, but that was a life lesson. I had another crucial life lesson. We were playing Canisius High School. They were undefeated 4 years in a row. And I, as a 155-pound defensive tackle, going up against two guys that were 240 and 260, Tucker gave me some survival lessons for me to survive and not get killed, which is basically to grab the grass in front of me and hold on to it and not let these two bulldozers who were going to double team me plow me over. So instead of trying to be a hero, I did exactly what the coach said. Thankfully, my knees are still working today, and the shoulders are still working. But some of these lifelong lessons have stuck with me forever. And Tucker's passion and dedication to the sport and his real belief in St. Joe's has given me lifelong lessons that I reflect on every time. And I reach back, and I've called Tucker several times to tell him how important he was in my overall development and helped me be a great sale product for St. Joe's. Now, Coach, in the history of St. Joe's, I honestly can say that there's been more Ivy League football athletes that have come out of St. Joe's in Western New York and played football in the Ivy League. Thanks to the LaSallian tradition, thanks to the great tradition of great football coaches we've had, now you're here. Maybe there's a few lessons like that that you have that you want to talk about, or maybe there's another lesson out there. For example, you know, Pete Dawkins, he was a great story. Graduated #1 in his class at West Point and also won the Heisman Trophy. In order to get it done, when the lights went off, he had to take a flashlight under the covers and study for an extra hour to accomplish his goals to do both. I mean, I'm blown away by some of the stories of these guys, but, you know, maybe there's a story there that you could share with us.
I would say probably from my playing days, in my senior year, we were playing against Cathedral Prep, and probably 6 minutes into the game, we were down 20-0. I had thrown 2 interceptions that got taken back for scores, and we had given up a long run. A powerhouse team, nationally ranked from Erie, Pennsylvania, and came to the sideline after the second pick, and Coach O'Connor would be his 3rd year as a head coach. His 1st year as a head coach, I was a sophomore. I played for him, and my junior and then my senior year. And I came off the field, and he looked me square in the face, and he said, "Now, what else are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to try not to throw another one, Coach." And he said, "Well, you're not coming out, so keep swinging." He said, "There's a lot of game left, keep swinging." And I didn't really give it much thought at that point. I mean, you're just used to competing. You can consistently go and you play hard all the time. Well, with about 2.5 minutes left in the game, we're driving down the field and we're losing 20-18, and we got them on their heels. We called our last timeout with about 1.5 minutes left, with the ball on about their 25-yard line, down by 2, and like 3rd or 4th and 8, and come over to the sideline, and he says, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Listen, I got us this far." I said, "Now it's up to you."
That's great.
But, you know, that was one of the lessons that I learned playing for Coach O'Connor, was that you're supposed to make mistakes. You're a kid. You're going to make them. And I tell my kids all the time, I tell my kids at home, I don't care about the mistakes you make. I want you to own the mistakes that you make, but that's not what makes you. It's how you answer that mistake. You got your head down, Are you repeatedly making the same one? If you can stand up and get after it after you make a mistake, that's what makes a man out of you.
Well, there's nothing like the confidence we get from growing from our mistakes and learning and taking on life's challenges, like you are now this year, Coach, taking on life's challenges. But I look at the great coaches that are out there. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them. And the confidence that you have had, and the ability to give these kids confidence that takes them on and helps them become physicians, like your brother Rick Gilbert, who was a famous quarterback at St. Joe's. And some of those life lessons and lessons of humility. I remember when he was a freshman and I was a senior, and he was wearing his white football shoes, and I called him over when I was a senior and I let him know I didn't think that was going to be a good fit in Tucker Rennington's system. Fortunately, Rick was all ears, but I was doing it in a very kind way, and I delivered it the right way where it hit receptive ears because he knew it wasn't in any kind of negative way. But it's funny how he remembered that 25 or 30 years later, and through football and our camaraderie in St. Joe's, where we've been able to reconnect, so much reconnection that your nephew Rick has worked with me this summer, and particularly working on these projects. But it's funny, Coach, they say sports doesn't make character, but it reveals character. What do you think about that statement?
Everybody has character in them. I think that when you play sports, and again, multiple sports, not the one-hit wonders, the more competitive environments that an athlete is in, I equate those situations, the competitions, to the situations in real life, the tough things, the tough decisions, the job interviews, the tough decisions when you're dealing with drugs and alcohol and extramarital stuff as an adult, the temptation that's out there. I think as an athlete, you're in competition and you're in these competitive situations. The more of those situations that you're in where you're in the hot seat and you're the guy that has to make or break a play, that you're a leader, it equates with success off the field. Once you're done playing, it makes you make those good decisions. As I tell the kids, I spoke at a seminar at school this spring, and I started with a little greeting. I was introduced, and first thing I did was I identified one of the football players that was in the room, and I found out something was wrong with his wardrobe that wasn't up to code, or maybe his hair was a little long. And I called him out, I stood him up, and I came over and I used voice inflection. And I came over and really started to dress him down a little bit and call him out on why his shirt wasn't tucked in, or why did he have his hair down to the collar. And told him, I said, you know what, now it's disrespectful, and I'm going to ask you to leave the room and you go see Mr. Scott right now. And it was amazing how the eye contact went to the floor. There was no rebuttal. It was completely deflating, and the kids, they were being put into a tough situation, and they completely walked away from it and tried to remove themselves from it. And as they walked and got closer to the door to leave, I asked them to stop and come back in. And I said, now that feeling you had in your stomach, and I said, the feeling that you guys all know you had in your stomach as I approached him and used some voice inflection. I said, if you learn anything today, you learn that feeling, when you get that feeling in your stomach, that's a critical point. That's a big thing. And if you learn how to embrace that and attack it and not cower from it and run away from it, I said, it'll guarantee your success. And I equate that with the situations, the competitive situations on the field. If you run away from them on the field, whether it's in practices or games, these challenges, you'll run away from them in real life. So by coaching, we teach them how to deal with them on the field, and it develops good character, which then makes them a better adult and a better leader when they get done at St. Joe's.
Coach, my brother Larry is an assistant coach, has worked with you. You have your staff. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your staff at St. Joe's.
Everybody's a St. Joe's guy. Everybody on the staff went to St. Joe's, played at St. Joe's. Some have had children who have gone through St. Joe's and played there. The varsity staff consists of